Hello friends, welcome back. In this video, we will discuss some more para summary questions that are generally asked in CAT and other management entrance examinations. The questions are going to be slightly complex, so I would suggest that you first attempt the questions on your own first and then come back to the video so that your understanding will become clear. So this is something that I say regularly for each of my videos because I'm providing the PDF in the link at the video description. So please open the link, open the PDF and attempt the questions on your own first. Then you will get an idea regarding the questions. Then if you come back and watch the video, your whatever doubts you have in your mind or whatever clarifications you need, those things will become very clear, and the techniques that we use in identifying the answers also will become clear. So that is why attempting the exercise on your own first is very, very important in having a very good understanding, and the objective of the learning will be accomplished only when you do like this. That is why I'm giving this information or instruction in the beginning itself. All right, now we will move to the questions. Question number one. This again is not a very easy passage, but you have to read the passage very, very minutely, precisely, then you will understand the meaning. So basically, this passage is talking about the appeal of the Hollywood movies. What is the magic of the Hollywood style? And this magic is best represented by what? This is not just for restricted to Hollywood. This is for all the other movie industries which are influenced by Bollywood, Hollywood. That is what the passage says. So it is not only for Hollywood, for all the other industries which are influenced by Hollywood. This is important. So what is the important thing? It is the skilled and satisfying manipulation of visual pleasure. So the most important or the best feature of Hollywood and all the movie industries that are influenced by Hollywood is that they skillfully and satisfactorily manipulate the visual pleasure, or whatever we see, we enjoy the whatever we are seeing. So that visual pleasure is more important, or it gives a lot of importance to the visual pleasure or whatever is pleasing to the eyes. We call the aesthetics of the viewer. So that is being given a lot of prominence in by Hollywood movies. And mainstream films coded the erotic into the language of the dominant patriarchal order. So this sentence will become slightly difficult or complex to understand. Unchallenged means without any challenges. Mainstream film means whatever films are mainstream films are that are made in Hollywood. They coded the erotic into the language of the dominant patriarchal order. Means what? Coded the erotic means they included the erotic or put the erotic. So erotic, the literal meaning is something that is sexually stimulating or sexually arousing. But in this particular context, it is erotic has a meaning, something that is stimulating, something that is visually stimulating. So that visual stimulations are included into the language of the dominant patriarchal order. What is this language of the dominant patriarchal order? Patriarchal means male dominated is the literal meaning. But in this particular context, it does not mean male dominated. It means traditional or conventional. So in the conventional filmmaking order or in the conventional filmmaking tradition, the language of the conventional filmmaking system which is dominant. So the conventional or the orthodox or the traditional filmmaking system is not giving too much importance to the visual pressures. So the mainstream films, what they are doing, they are coding the erotic, means coding the stimulating things into the language of the dominant patriarchal order. Simply put, it means that the mainstream Hollywood movies are carefully and skillfully weaving the visual pleasures into the traditional filmmaking system. That is the meaning. So what they do is that they carefully weave the visually stimulating aspects into the normal or traditional filmmaking system, which was dominant. And there is no challenges for them in doing this. And in the highly developed Hollywood cinema, it was only through these codes that they alienated subjects. So these codes or these visually stimulating effects, it was only through these codes that alienated subject. Alienated subject means the viewer who is not very much familiar to the subjects, familiar to the movie or the plot of the movie. So the viewer who is not very much familiar to the plot of the movie and he is confused in his imaginary memory by a sense of loss, means what? He imagines that he is not able to retain the plot of the movie, or he is not able to follow the plot of the movie, and he has a terror of lack of fantasy, means he is afraid that he is not able to fantasize or imagine about the things that are stated in the movie. So this viewer is having a lot of confusions in his memory, that he is not able to retain the movie in his mind, and he's not able to imagine about the movie. So such viewers will be able to find satisfaction only through these codes. That is a meaning. So Hollywood cinema, what it does, it is influencing the viewer who is already confused about his ability to retain or enjoy the movie. So that through these visually stimulating ideas, the Hollywood movies make or the give the viewer a glimpse of satisfaction, and it is through its formal beauty. Beauty means the beauty of the movie, or it is very good to watch. So the visually satisfied with the visual satisfaction of the movie, and it plays on its formative obsessions, means everybody is having a lot of some hidden obsessions regarding beauty and different aspects of beauty. So those aspects are addressed to by these Hollywood movies through, and they give the viewer a satisfaction. This is the meaning. So the meaning of the passage can be listed out like this. The best feature of Hollywood magic is its ability to skillfully manipulate the visual pleasure to satisfy the audience. That is correct. This skill is not an exclusive feature of Hollywood, but it is an important aspect. So the passage says that it is not exclusive to Hollywood only. There might be many other movie industries which are doing this, but this is a special or an important part of Hollywood movies. And mainstream movies, what they are doing, they weave the stimulating effects of visual pleasure into the traditional language of storytelling systems that was dominant. So the dominant storytelling systems are very orthodox and traditional, and Hollywood movies, what they do, they weave or include the stimulating effects of visual pleasure into the traditional methods without any problems. And in the highly competitive or highly developed Hollywood cinema, it is only through these visually pleasing codes that the movie is passed on to the memory of the viewer, igniting his imagination. So the viewer is having a lot of confusion regarding whether he is able to retain the plot of the movie in his mind or imagine about the movie. So all his confusions are driven away by using this visually pleasing techniques, so that the viewer gets a lot of satisfaction and is able to derive satisfaction through his obsessions with beauty, because everybody is obsessed with beauty. So that obsession is exploited by the industry by giving us a visual feast. This is the meaning of the passage. So the careful reading, you will get the essence of the passage. Once you have the essence, you can go for the summary. Option A, manipulation of visual pleasure as ushered in the best era in Bollywood. Manipulation of visual pleasure, correct. The Hollywood movies are skillfully manipulating the visual pleasure. But it has ushered means it has brought in the best era of Hollywood. Is this correct? We are not talking about whether this is the best era or the worst era. We are only saying that this is the best aspect of the Hollywood magic. So magic of the Hollywood style at its best means this is the best aspect of the Hollywood magic. What is the best aspect? The manipulation of the visual pleasure. Whether it has led to the best period in Hollywood industry or not, we don't know. Era means period. So this is why this is not a good answer. Option B, the magic of the Hollywood style is best reflected by the visual representation of the erotic language of the dominant patriarchal order. It says that the dominant patriarchal order or the traditional filmmaking methods have an erotic language. Representation of the erotic language of the dominant patriarchal order means the erotic language means the visually stimulating methods of the dominant traditional systems. Is it correct? The passage says that the traditional systems are not visually stimulating. So here the passage saying that visual representation of the erotic language of the dominant patriarchal order means it is only visually representing the stimulating methods of the traditional filmmaking systems. The passage says that the traditional filmmaking systems are not stimulating. So if they in these dominant patriarchal systems, the erotic is coded into the language. The films coded the erotic into the language means included the stimulating things into the systems of or into the language of the traditional systems. So here it says that the language is already stimulating. The erotic language of the dominant patriarchal order means the traditional systems have a very visually stimulating technique, which is wrong. So that is why this again is not a good answer. Option C, like everything else in Hollywood, even the concept of fantasy is defined by the dominant patriarchal order. It says that like everything else in Hollywood. So means we have only talked about the visually pleasing techniques of Hollywood. So like everything else in Hollywood, the passage is not saying anything about any other thing in Hollywood. So this part itself is wrong. And let us go further. Even the concept of fantasy is defined by the dominant patriarchal obsession. The concept of fantasy is not defined by the dominant patriarchal obsession, because the dominant patriarchal obsession means the traditional movie making techniques where there is no place for fantasy, because fantasy is what the viewer wants to do. The viewer is having viewer thinks that he does not have the ability to fantasize. So that is why the visually stimulating techniques used by the new systems to make the author fantasize. Whereas this option says that the concept of fantasy is defined by the existing systems, which is wrong. The concept of fantasy is completely absent in the existing or traditional systems. That is why the new systems where visually stimulating techniques are used to make the viewer fantasize about the movie. So this is why this also is wrong. Option D, the Hollywood style became effective by intelligently manipulating visual pleasure for the audience. Very correct, because the effectiveness or the best part of the Hollywood magic is the intelligent manipulation of the visual pleasure for the audience. So since all the other three are wrong and this is having no mistakes in this particular statement, this will become the best summary for the passage, option D. Hope this is clear. Now go to the next one. So it talks about revolutionary situations where one event can sometimes trigger the final leap from hesitation to irrevocable action. Means an action that cannot be revoked or that cannot be withdrawn. So such action sometimes will materialize from one single event. So normally, or in some revolutionary situation means in situations where there are a lot of changes happening, sudden and abrupt changes happening. In such situations, sometimes there is a lot of hesitation in going for that change. So that hesitation will be overcome by one single event. So that event will trigger the final leap. So now a lot of changes are happening, but the final change is not happening, and there is a lot of hesitation to go for that final change. In such cases, a single event can trigger that final leap. So such a moment came in January 1776 when a recent British immigrant, Thomas Paine, published an incendiary pamphlet. What is incendiary? Very explosive, something that is bound to cause a lot of issues or also a lot of action. That is called an incendiary, an explosive pamphlet, common sense, eloquently calling for independence. So this is everything that is right or reasonable pleads for separation. Paine declared, the blood of the slain, the weeping voice of nature cries, it's time to part. Appealing to the American sense of destiny, he proclaimed the cause of America is in great measure the cause of all mankind. So what can you understand about the context? It is talking about the American War of Independence. America wanted to be free from England, or the England was America was a colony of England, but Americans wanted to be free, and this struggle was going on. And in January 1776, this incendiary pamphlet published by Thomas Paine proved to be a trigger that started the final leap towards the freedom of USA. This is what the passage is saying. So Paine is declaring, the blood of the slain, the weeping voice of nature cries, it's time to part. So it is time to break ties with England. And he's talking about the American sense of destiny. He says that cause of America is in great measure the cause of all mankind. So whatever he has written, this motivated the people of America to rise up and demand complete freedom from England. That is how the final leap or the final change happened. and this pamphlet proved to be the trigger. So this is the meaning. Now, this once you understand the passage, the summary becomes very, very easy. Thomas Paine paved the way for independence of America through his incendiary speeches. What is the meaning? He was the person who formed the way for the independence of America. What the passage is saying? His was the final push, but whether he was the person who led from the front in the independence of America, we don't know. That is not stated. His pamphlet was the final. This pamphlet gave the final push or the final trigger in the independence of America. Whereas this option is saying that Thomas Paine paved the way for the independence of America through his incendiary speeches. This also is wrong because we are only talking about a pamphlet published by Thomas Paine, not speeches. So this is two problems are there, as a result of which this will not be a good answer. Option B, America was built by the revolutionary writing of Thomas Paine, a recent British immigrant. Again, the same problem. It gives all the credit for building America to Thomas Paine. Is this correct? We are not talking about the building of America. We're talking about the independence of America or the freedom of America from England, which happened in after January 1776. So this America was built by the revolutionary writing of Thomas Paine is again a exaggerated statement. This is not what the passage is implying. Option C, the American struggle for independence found a boost in the shape of Thomas Paine's writings. Correct. This is a good answer because the American struggle, they were already struggling for independence. The final leap was not happening. So the final leap was provided by the pamphlet published by Thomas Paine. So American struggle for independence found a boost. Good answer. Keep it in your mind. Option D, Thomas Paine proves the point that in every revolution, this itself is wrong. In every revolution, this will happen. Is it correct? The passage says that in revolutionary citizens, a single event can sometimes trigger. It is not saying that in all the revolutionary citizens situations, a small step can become catastrophically significant. So it can sometimes happen. And Thomas Paine is not proving the point that in every revolution, a small step taken by the person can prove catastrophically significant. That is wrong because he is only proving the point that in certain situations, a small step taken by the person becomes significant. And catastrophically, that word also is wrong here. Catastrophically means disastrously. Here, is there any disaster that occurred? America ultimately got freedom from England. That was not a disaster, right? So because of these two problems, this again is wrong. So the right answer is option C. No other options are correct. So very clearly, you can arrive at the answer without a problem. Now go to the third question. So third question is talking about the economic upheaval. What is upheaval? Sudden changes. So wrought by COVID means economical caused by COVID. So there are a lot of sudden economic changes happen because of COVID and the geopolitical relations with China. And this is threatening to disrupt capital flows into the startup ecosystem. And there is a recent report from the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance, and it is suggesting, but it is making a lot of suggestions. And the first suggestion is that the unlisted securities means startups are unlisted companies, right? So this much knowledge you should be having. If you are a management aspirant, you should know what is a startup, what is the difference between a startup and a listed company. The startups are companies which are recently formed, which have not been listed in the stock market, which are privately held there. So they are having only private equity, no public equity will not be there. So when the standing committee is saying that this kind of investment in unlisted securities means investment in startups should be exempted from LTCG, means long-term capital gains tax. Even if you don't know the meaning of LTCG, not a problem, some kind of tax. So the committee is saying that they should be exempt from LTCG for 2 years, and STT security transaction tax should be levied to ensure parity with listed shares. So in order to ensure that they are equal with listed shares, a security transaction tax should be levied. LTCG should not be levied. And it further flags means it further raises the disparity in tax treatment between foreign and domestic investors in PE or VC funds. PE or VC funds are private equity or venture capital funds. If you don't know this, that also is not a problem, means whatever funds are investing in startups, that's all you need to understand. So there is a disparity or a difference in tax treatment between domestic and foreign investors investing in startups. Whereas, what is the disparity? The foreign investors are getting away with minimum taxes. So, by routing their transactions through low tax countries. So, the foreign investors are getting some unfair advantage by routing their transactions through low tax countries, and they are getting low taxes. So, that is why they are getting away. So, that is an unfair advantage. So, this issue is also raised in the report. And then the report also says that there is a long-standing demand from this funding industry. What is a long-standing demand? Domestic pension funds, banks, etc., should raise their allocation to AIF. AIF means Alternative Investment Fund, or you can say startups. So again, even if you don't know this, from the context, you should understand that we are all talking about the investment in startups. So the third suggestion is that the banks should be asked to give more allocation to investment in startups. Now, the passage is talking about these are the suggestions. Then the author's views are stated. There is a good case for the center to consider a no LTCG regime, given the bank's risks involved, but whether a 2-year period would suffice is debatable. So he says that this no waiver of LTCG is a good measure, but whether 2 years will be sufficient is debatable. Then the tax should be made equal, which is a good suggestion. So he is welcoming the parity in taxes, means both the domestic and foreign investors should have equality in taxes, whether it is income tax or GST, so that the investors will be mobilizing funds from within India, because otherwise they will be in order to avail the tax concessions, they will route their transactions through low tax countries. So that is actually loss for the government. So that is why the passage is using the term getting away. Getting away with minimum tax means loss for the government. So that is why the government should make the taxes equal for both foreign as well as domestic investors to startups. And this the author is welcoming. And the third point, the author is not welcoming. He says that the center must think twice before exerting calls for domestic pension funds. Why? The author is not very happy that banks and insurance companies and pension funds should increase investment in startups, because these institutions are still taking baby steps in listed equity. So in traditional equities, means listed companies and in bonds, they are only just started investing. So asking them to increase their investment in startups will become risky. That is the meaning. So these are the things that are stated, or when you can list out the items here like this. Sudden economic changes due to COVID and the problems with China threaten to block the capital flow into startups. This is the first point. Second point, the parliamentary committee has suggested to waive LTCG for 2 years for investment in startups and to levy a state security transaction tax. So this is the first recommendation. Second recommendation is that there is a disparity in taxes applicable for foreign and domestic investors. As a result of which, foreign investors are getting away with minimum taxes. This also is not correct as per the author. The report also says that this is not correct. And the third suggestion in the report is that banks and domestic pension funds should raise their investment in startups. And what were the author's points of view? Author says that waiver of LTCG is a good step, but 2 years may not be sufficient. Then second one, parity in income tax and GST for domestic and foreign investors will motivate investors to mobilize funds from within India. So this also is something welcomed by the author. Third suggestion is not welcomed by the author, because he says that the banks and pension funds are already just beginning to invest in listed companies. So they should not be asked to increase their investment in unlisted companies. So these are the points. Now, coming back to the summaries, options. The status of capital flow into the startup economy looks positive. That itself is wrong, because the first sentence itself says that the current situations are threatening to disrupt capital flows to the startup ecosystem. Whereas this statement says that the status of capital flow is looking positive. So that is wrong. And inputs made by the Standing Committee on Finance would further strengthen it. May be correct, but the first part is wrong. Option B, there is a possible reduction in investments in the startup sector by foreign investors, and initiatives proposed by the government to address this issue is inadequate. Is there a possible reduction in investment in the startup sector by foreign investors? We don't know. The passage is saying that foreign investors are getting a tax concession, as a result of which they are getting away with investment by paying less taxes. So logically speaking, they will not be reducing their investment because they are getting a lot of tax concessions. So this whether there is a reduction in investment in startup by foreign investors is unclear. Logically, there should not be any reduction. So this is why this also will not be a summary. Initiatives proposed by the government to address this issue is inadequate. Means government is has not proposing, or government is not proposing to address this problem. Government is proposing to address the disparity in tax treatment between domestic and foreign investors. So this is again wrong. Option C, the future of unlisted companies seems doubtful. Unlisted companies means startups. The future is doubtful, specifically the startups, and the recommendations made by the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance regarding the levy of security transaction tax can be fruitful. So here the statement says that the parliamentary committee's suggestion to levy security transaction tax is good. Whereas in the passage, the author has not expressed any views regarding the levy of the security transaction tax. The author is only saying that LTCG waiver is a good step, but 2 years may not be sufficient. Whether STT, levy of STT is a good step or not, the author is not saying anything. So this part is wrong. And where the future of unlisted companies seems doubtful is also not correct. It says that the capital flow is disrupted and there are certain measures we can do to improve the capital flow. So whether the future is going to be doubtful or not, the passage is not making any suggestions like that. So this becomes a bad summary. Option D, the failure of the startup sector, future of the startup sector is uncertain, correct? Because we cannot say whether it is going to be bright or whether it is going to be dull, because the capital flow has become disrupted. So there is a lot of uncertainty, and the suggestions contained in the report from the Parliamentary Standing Committee could be partially helpful in addressing the issues, correct? Because the author is not agreeing with all the suggestions, he is only partially agreeing with the suggestions. That is why the phrase partially helpful is very, very important. So the future of the startup sector is uncertain, correct? And the suggestions of the standing committee can be partially helpful in addressing the issues. Very correct. So this is why option D becomes the best summary. So here again, the key is to understand the passage correctly, list out the main points, and then go for a summary that will help you in identifying the correct answer without a problem. Okay, go to the next para. This para is talking about the concept of soft power. What is soft power? Soft power means the power a country generates through its culture, its movies, its music, etc., which are spread into other countries where there is a lot of following for these kind of things. So when the citizens of another country are very eagerly following your movies, your music, your culture, etc., they identify themselves with you. So you can exert a lot of indirect power on them. So it is not the hard power. Hard power means you are commanding them or you are forcing them to obey you. Whereas in the case of soft power, you don't have to force them. They will automatically volunteer to do whatever you want, because they think that they are a part of your country. So when one country gets other countries to want what it wants, because the citizens of that country, when they are very much interested in your music, your culture, your movies, etc., they also think like your citizens, and so they will also want what you want. So that is called soft power. So the power of the soft power is very, very influential, and this was identified by K. Subramaniam, because Indian movies have had a lot of overseas popularity. So the strategic power was exploited by this guru of strategy affairs, K. Subramaniam, and in 1990, American political scientist Joseph Nye, he was the person who formed the phrase soft power because of US global cultural influence that advanced economic, technology, and military power. So US already had a lot of economic, technology, and military power, which extended all over the world. Along with it, the cultural influence of the US also added to the power through the soft methods. So that is why he is called co-optive or soft power. It means co-optive power means what? You don't have to exert your power forcibly on another country. The other country will voluntarily do what you want because they are cooperating with you, because they think like you are basic people. That is the meaning. So this is different from hard or commanding power of ordering others to do what it wants. And cinema and music and country of a country popular, that would be soft power. And it is, and then he talks about one example where the Gina Lollobrigada's Bruno Sarra, Mrs. Campbell, and Stanley Kramer's film version of Robert Crichton's Secret of Santiago, films that aim to project American popularity in Italy. So this particular section is talking about an example where American movies and American literature became popular in Italy, and readers became very much enamored with these kind of things. And some people in Washington DC exploited these diplomatic usages of Hollywood soft power. Hollywood movies everywhere, people are seeing Hollywood movies. So the Hollywood movie had a lot of soft power. So the many diplomats used that soft power, but some others were trying to malign the film industry for their domestic political agenda. What was that? The example is given: Senator Joseph McCarthy, who took it upon himself to purge Hollywood of alleged communist influence. So, this particular senator wanted to remove all the communist influences that are there in Hollywood. So that is so the viewpoint of some people, but most of the diplomats try to exploit the advantages of soft power. This is the meaning. Now, coming to the summary, the use of soft powers by a country to coerce others into providing it with what it needs is where the music and cinema industries come to the picture. So this seems like a good answer. Only problem is coerce. Coerce means what? Make others do something forcibly is called coercing. Means when you use force and ask others to do what you want, that is coercion. But here in software, there is no need for coercion because the other people also will want what we want. So that is why there is no need for any coercion when you have a soft power. So that is why this is wrong. Option B, the Indian government, not unlike the US government, means like the US government, uses one of its richest industries to manipulate the citizens, the industry, and other countries for its own benefit. So here the problem is, what is the problem here? Manipulate the citizens, the industry. This is not stated in the passage. The passage is that this soft power is used to manipulate the other countries for our benefits. So manipulate our own citizens and the industry is not stated in the passage. Wrong again. Option C, the influential music and cinema industries of a country can work as a unique persuasion tool used by political parties and governments to further their cause. Yes, the governments wanted to further their cause, means they wanted to extend their cause, or they wanted to reach the target of their cause, or they wanted to have certain things done. So in order to get those things done, this can be used as a persuasive tool. So it is not a forcible tool, it is a unique persuasion tool. Persuasion means you are persuading or convincing the other person to do what you want. So that is called a unique persuasion tool. So the music and cinema industries can work as a persuasion tool to be used by political parties and governments to achieve their objectives. So good answer, keep it in your mind. Option D, the use of software goes back to the 90s, but is still in its nascent stage. So whether the use of software is started from the 90s, we don't know. We only know that the term software was originated in 1990s. The term, or this particular term soft power, was coined by Joseph Nye in 1990s. Whether the usage of soft power is started in the 90s, we don't know. We only know that in India, K. Subramanian was the person who started it. Whether this was before 1990 or after 1990, we don't know. And many others might have used it, or that also we don't know. So that is why the use of software going back to the 1990s is wrong. And whether it is still in its nascent stage means beginning stages or in the childhood stage, that also we don't know. So that has not been picked up by many countries outside US and India. That also is not stated in the passage. So wrong on 3 counts. So again, not a good answer. So very clearly, option C becomes the best summary of the passage. All right, now go to the question number 5. Question number 5 again is a tough passage. You have to read it very, very carefully to understand the essence of the passage. Only then you will be able to get or you can spot a good summary of the passage. So I have listed out the main points in this particular paragraph. Please read the points. For this will help you to get a clear idea about the what the passage is saying. It says there is a new research paper and it has built an annual income series of British workers based on yearly pay rather than their daily pay. So this particular research paper has tried to find put a or try to develop an annual income series. This annual income series for British workers is based on their yearly pay rather than their daily pay. So this is the first point. And the new series differs considerably from the existing income series, which is based on daily pay. So the existing income series or the old income series is using the daily pay method to estimate the annual income of British workers, whereas this method, the new method, is using the yearly pay to estimate the annual income of British workers. And there is a lot of difference between the two methods. And these differences, what is the differences indicate? Indicate that the estimates of British workers calculated using the old method during the medieval period. So we are talking about the estimation of British workers' annual income during the medieval period and the industrial revolution. So medieval period means between the 5th century and the 15th century AD is called the medieval period, and the 16th and 17th century are called the industrial revolution period. So this idea, if you have this idea, very good. Otherwise, at least you should know that the medieval period is before the industrial revolution. Industrial revolution started in the 15th century and went up to the 17th or 18th centuries. So the industrial revolution period and the medieval period, the estimates of the salaries of the workers as per the old method was wrong, or as there was a problem here. What was the problem? As per the old method, the medieval period salaries were overestimated. Overestimated means the old method stated that the medieval period workers were having more wages than they actually were earning. So that is why it was overestimated. And the industrial revolution period, they underestimated the wages. Means the as per the old system, the industrial revolution period workers were getting lesser salary than it was estimated. The underestimation means they were actually getting more salary than it was estimated. So the in reality, what is happening during the medieval period, the people were earning less salary than estimated, and in the industrial revolution period, the people were getting more salary than estimated. So it was only because of the problems of the estimation method, the daily wages method, this overestimation and underestimation happened. So that is the meaning. And the new estimates calculated using the new method downscale the estimated wages during the medieval period. Yes, because it corrects that mistake. Because in the earlier method, the medieval period salary was overestimated. So that overestimation was corrected by downscaling the estimates. So means the medieval age workers were actually getting lower salaries, but the old method projected that their salaries were higher. So that projection was downscaled by the new system. Then it also proves that the Britain's journey to become a modern economy started from the late 16th century and not from the 19th century. So because of this downscaling, it made this particular finding that Britain started becoming a modern economy not from the 19th century, but from the 16th century itself. Why? Because as per the earlier method, medieval period workers were getting more salary, then industrial revolution period workers were getting less salary. So there was no economic progress. The economic decline was happening. And from in 19th century, after the industrial revolution only, the economic progress started. This is what the old system was saying. Whereas as per the new system, the medieval age workers were getting lesser salary. Industrial revolution period workers were getting more salary. And then after that, the salary started increasing continuously. So there was a continuous increase in the salary. So that means Britain's journey to become a modern economy started from the 16th century onwards. So that is why it says that from the medieval ages, people were not getting that much salary as was projected. Industrial revolution period workers were getting more salary than was projected. So from that day onwards, the salary started increasing, and from 19th century, it started again increasing. So the Britain's journey to become modern economy started from the late 16th century itself. That is, from the beginning of the industrial revolution itself, Britain started to become a modern economy as per the new estimate, because as per the old estimate, it could not happen because the people were getting lesser salary than the medieval ages. So that is why it stated that the economy Medieval age line here, industrial revolution here. So from the medieval ages to the industrial revolution, there was a decrease in the economy, and from 19th century onwards, they started in 19th century onwards, the economy started increasing. That was the as per the old system, whereas the new system says that from the 16th century itself, incomes were continuously increasing, as a result of which Britain's journey to become a modern economy started from 19th century, 16th century itself. And new method also said that income continued to rise throughout the 17th century and the industrial revolution, and this finding is tuned with the recently revised account of Britain's economic evolution. So, as we stated earlier, these salaries continue to rise through from the 16th century, late 16th century onwards, through the 17th century and the industrial revolution. And this finding is compatible with the recently revised account of Britain's economic evolution. So recently, Britain's economic evolution history was recompiled, and that also says the same thing. But the old series, however, agrees with the Malthusian theory, which said that income levels reached a plateau and stagnated. But as per the old theory, what happened? The medieval ages, they had a higher salary, then the industrial revolution salary decreased, then from that decrease, it reached a stagnant point. Then there was no increase in the salary. That was the theory in the old series. So this new series says that no, salaries were continuously increasing from the 16th century onwards, and this is agreeing with the recently revised account of Britain's economic evolution. So these are the main points in the passage. Once you understand the main points, the summary becomes very, very easy to spot. The new annual income series rectifies an error in estimation of wages in the medieval era and during the industrial revolution, and it is in tune with the revised history of Britain's economic evolution. Correct, because it says that the new series rectifies an error in the estimation of wages in the medieval era and during the industrial revolution. So what was the error? The medieval era, as per the old method, the salaries were overestimated, and the industrial revolution salaries were underestimated. So that error was rectified by the new series, and this series is compatible with the revised history of Britain's economic evolution. Means, as per the revised history, Britain's economic evolution started from the late 16th century onwards. This series also says the same thing. So this is a good answer. Keep it in your mind. The new series focuses on option B, the new series focuses on wages by creating an annual income series rather than by taking day by day into account. Yes, that is also correct. The new series is focusing on annual income. It is not focusing on the daily income. True. But which is a better answer? When you have two good answers, the better answer will always be the one which is more specific, which gives more information regarding the passage that we have already discussed. So B is not a better answer than A. B is only talking about one aspect of the new series, whereas it is not talking about any other things that the new series is doing. So B cannot be a better answer than A. Then C, the revised chronology of the economic growth of two eras is accompanied by way of calculation of the wages in the two eras. The revised chronology means the revised order of the economic growth of the two eras is accompanied by way of calculation of the wages in the two eras. Again, correct. It says that the revised order of the economic growth. What is the revised order? The previous order was that economic growth reduced from the medieval ages into the industrial revolution, and then it stagnated. But as per the revised chronology, economic growth continued from the 16th century onwards till now. That is this, and how it has accomplished it is by way of calculation of the wages in the two eras. That also is a good statement. But is it a better statement than A? Because this is not talking about the new series or the old series and how the new series was able to prove that the Britain's economic evolution started from the 16th century. That is not stated here. As a result of which, this again will not be a good summary or a better summary than option A. Option A is still the better summary. Always remember, when you have more than one correct answers, the best answer will always be the answer which gives you the crux or the essence of the passage or the most important ideas in the passage. This is something you need to always focus on in para summary. So this is why option C is also not a good answer. Option D, the new annual income series contrasts the income estimates of the 17th century with that of the medieval era and juxtaposes them with the recently revised GDP of Britain. The new annual income series contrasts the income estimates of the 17th century with that of the medieval era. Correct. It differentiates. Contrast means what? It differentiates the income estimates of the 17th century with that of the medieval era. That is true. And juxtaposes them. Juxtaposes means placing side by side with the recently revised GDP of Britain. This is the wrong part. It is not the GDP of Britain that is revised. It is the evolution of Britain's GDP that is revised. Evolution means history of how Britain's GDP evolved. So that is revised. Recently revised GDP of Britain means what? Britain's gross domestic product is recently recalculated. So that is not what the passage says. It says that the revised evolution of Britain's per capita GDP means what is the income per person for Britain, how it evolved over the years. That is that system is revised. Whereas here recently revised GDP means the current GDP is revised. That is why even though the first part is correct, juxtaposing means putting side by side. So it is not put side by side with the recently revised GDP of Britain. So wrong answer again. So second, so which is the correct answer here? There is only one correct answer, option A. B and C are also correct answers, but they are not better summaries than option A. So we cannot accept those. D is an incorrect answer, so we can completely ignore it. So option A will be the best summary available. So this is I think the toughest para summary in this particular series. We will be dealing with this kind of tough questions. You need to be familiar with these kind of tough questions because these are the kind of questions you will face in your actual exams. Now you have to start practicing with tough questions because your exam is hardly 2 months away. So that is why I'm coming up with these kind of exercises. So if you have liked the content of the video and the explanations provided, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so that I get motivated to bring further videos on topics like this. Please subscribe to my WhatsApp group. The link is also provided there. And you feel free to give your comments regarding the contents. Thank you. Bye-bye.